NFL Week 11, we're going to hit on those primetime games. We got to see if those dogs are coming alive during the Barking Dogs segment to see who can actually win outright this week. Team report with VR, the Deli 5-0 last week, 32-17 on the season. And of course, those best bets up next on Bet on It. Kelly Stewart here, Yanni the Greek, Marco D'Angelo, ready to break down NFL Week 11 for you guys. We're going to get started. Thursday Night Football looks to be, well, another awful Thursday Night Football game, but it can't be much worse than what we saw Thursday night last week with my Denver Broncos, who did get it done for me in Survivor. Now, this week, VR, I'm kicking myself for not having New England available in Survivor because they are an 11.5-point home favorite to the New York Jets, total 43.5.
Indeed. And now highest 13.5 right now, Kel. So that line's jumping up higher on New England. The look ahead was like what, 11 or 10.5 even. That got hit. And no surprise. Listen, I didn't get to the window with New England. Just want to make that disclaimer. I do think it's the right side. Listen, New England's done a phenomenal job of not just winning football games, but completely outperforming the betting market. That's the bottom line. It's a very efficient market, and this team just continues to outperform. And it's hard to get in front of that. Like, you expect it to correct itself. But I don't think this is the game, because you're getting a Jets team that's also coming in back-to-back winners, back-to-back covers. They've covered 3 of their last 4. And I think that's why they brought a little short price out on New England. Thursday night unsexy game, a low total as well. They haven't played each other yet this year. New England's owned the series, won 8 of the last 10, covered 8 of the last 10, 7 of the last 10. Again, I don't think that changes. Bottom line, Jets are worst team in football, second or third as far as my power ratings go. They've had an easy strength of schedule. In fact, they've had the 26th toughest schedule. So only a handful of teams had an easier schedule. And yet they don't even have a top 25 offense or a top 25 defense. They're in the bottom 5 in both of those. It's as bad of a team as you're going to get right now. And they're going up against a killer in New England that's just doing everything right. Like, usually I would think I'm looking to fade this team because you would think they'd be overvalued. But obviously from the move on this opener, that just isn't the case. And they've had an easy strength of schedule. And I think that's why Wise Guys kind of avoided them during this run. And the market hasn't caught up because they've had the easiest out of every team. They've had the easiest strength of schedule. And yet, when you look at them offensive and defensively, they're barely top 15 in both categories. So they're getting W's, but they're not lighting up the box score. They're outperforming the betting market, covering ATS, but they're not, again, getting it done on the stat sheet, except for a quarterback that's, top 6 now, top 7 in passing success rate, which really matters going against a Jets quarterback, which, is at the bottom of the pack. So for me, it's New England, lay the points. Market kind of got away from us. I don't think I'll get to the window with it, but it's New England or pass for me.
Much as I complained about the Thursday night football game, I think the Monday night football game might have been worse. But Philadelphia came out of Lambeau with a win and a cover, even as a very public underdog. They've now won and covered 3 straight. And since week 6 of last season, Eagles 13-1 straight up, 8-6 against the spread at Lincoln Financial Field. So I'm breaking down this game. I'm trying to look at it and make some sense of it, right? We know Dan Campbell, underdog, 11-2. He also took over play calling last week. And while that might appear that was a win, it was against the Commanders. So let's take that with a grain of salt. Both teams have major concerns on the offensive line. So look at the injury reports as of Wednesday morning. Tons of offensive linemen, not only on the Lions, but also on the Eagles, are banged up. I'm just going to take the easy way out here. Our producer Dan said, Kelly, I can't wait for your breakdown on this game. I'm like, breakdown? I'm going to tease the Lions. What do you mean? How can I not? Yes, the total is a little high for your traditional Wong teaser, but I think I'm just going to take the wussy way out. The Eagles performing better than I expected this season. Lions have had a couple of question marks, right? But we know that's a team that bounces back well. And we saw him bounce back well last week against the Commanders off a loss. Dan Campbell's a dog. I want to take him here just on the money line, but why not? I can sit back, relax, get him up over the touchdown there in Philadelphia. Marco D'Angelo, you get Monday Night Football, and I don't know whose idea this one was, but the Dallas Cowboys are a 3.5-point road favorite there in Las Vegas. Total 50.5.
Yeah, Kelly, and I always talk about bad teams, and I say that, when a season, has been bad, there's two types of games that they're going to show up for. A division game when they can play spoiler, or a national standalone TV game. Well, for the Raiders last week, they were in both of those situations on the road at Denver on Thursday Night Football, and they almost pulled the upset off. It was as ugly as you could see of a game, obviously, with that 10-7 final score. But, I don't see them getting up again after playing that game last week at Denver. And yeah, they're coming back home. It is the Cowboys. They've got that name, but there's so many problems with this Raider team. I just can't look at them. And for whatever reason, Pete Carroll will not take Geno Smith out of the game. He was literally a statue just standing back there in the pocket at the end of that game. He was so banged up. He couldn't move around. He was taking sacks. I can't back this team. Now, we look at a Cowboys team. They're coming off the bye week, so they've had extra time to prepare. But there's also, the situation that occurred during the bye week. This will be the first time the team takes the field since, the tragedy with player Marshawn Keelan being, passing away. The team, you never know how a team is going to respond to a situation like that. But we've seen more often than not in the past that these teams kind of use this game. They bring their best effort, whether it is because they're 3.5, 4 hours of distraction, whether it's honoring, the person that passed away, whatever, we see decent efforts. And I think you're going to see that from the Cowboys on the national stage on Monday. Yes, the Cowboys defense is horrible. I know that. But if you watch the Raiders offense, do you really think the Raiders are going to exploit that weakness? Not with Geno Smith banged up, not with only one playmaker on offense, and that being Brock Bowers, which gets the double team constantly. I'm going to go ahead and take the offensive weapons of Dallas and have them score enough points to outdo the Raiders. So this is a play more against the Raiders than it is a play with the Cowboys, but I got the Cowboys winning on Monday Night Football, 28-17. Let's go ahead and lay the points with the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's the only way I can look in that one as well, Marco. VR, anything you guys are seeing on the Steam side of things for NFL Week 11?
Indeed. Let's dive right into some of those sides that did get follow through. 3 stuck out that are getting a lot of public money as well. Start off with Kansas City, 473. The look ahead was 2.5. That got hit. And then the 3 opener got hit as well, which is why you're looking at number above that key. 465. Chargers. They were actually a dog on the look ahead. That got hit while it was before the games had even started. So they were at a 1-point favorite. Brought them out at 1.5. That got hit. 2.5 got hit. That's why you're looking at key number for the Chargers. Dog that got followed through as well. Fowler, 57. Cincinnati, plus 6.5 look ahead. And then the 6 opener got hit. Also, now 2 that look, at least on paper, like they got steamed, but only the look ahead. I have not seen any follow through, and they're 2 popular signs. First, Miami, 452. The look ahead, 2.5 is what got hit. That's why you're looking at a key number right now. And then also 455, Tampa Bay, the 6 look ahead got hit, but no follow through on either of those games. So make sure you pay attention to that on your odds logic screen. Click that number, look at what it was on the Sunday that the games are going on. Look at that following week and see then on Monday, is there follow through on some of these? That'll tell you some of the stronger sides for you.
All right, we're going to get right into those barking dogs, a segment that's done very well for this crew. Hopefully continuing that run. I'm going to let Marco D'Angelo go first here, mainly because he took my barking dog. Let's just say it.
I know he's always first to the window. Marco.
What can I say, Kelly? You snooze, you lose.
Yep,
right?
Yep. Black Friday ain't got shit on Marco. He got right to the window.
Barking dog, we're looking at Denver plus the 4 against Kansas City. This is going to be the public perception play of the week. I want to tell you something about how high everybody is on Kansas City. Okay. And I talked to 2 different bookmakers in the past week. And, jokingly said, going into last week, the favorite to win the Super Bowl was the Kansas City Chiefs. Still at the books. Okay. We talk about Westgate. We talk about, like stations. I talked to both of those sports operators. And if this season would have ended last Sunday, do you know the team that's the favorite to win the Super Bowl wouldn't even be in the playoffs? Kansas City. They've got them a 4-point favorite on the road because basically this is their season. If they don't win this game, they have basically 0 shot of winning the division because Denver will be up 3.5 games on them. I just don't see this number being this high. I realize Kansas City is playing better football now than they were at the beginning of the season. I get that. I also get Denver looked horrible on Thursday Night Football. But we talked about that game last week. Denver was playing their 3rd game in 11 days. They were playing the Raiders. If you remember, I gave out the under on the show last week because I said Denver's going to just want to get in and get out. I ended up giving my clients the Raiders in that game. I didn't want any part of Denver last week. It was all about this week. And that's what I'm looking at. You've got a 5-4 Kansas City team as a 4-point road favorite to 8-2 Denver. Now, is Denver overexceeded? Have they won a couple games that they shouldn't have won? Yeah, I'll admit that. But they're still 8-2, and they're at home, and they're an underdog in a division game. Not doing it. And Kansas City has not been able to run the football. They're not going to be able to run the football against Denver as well. They're going to have to win this game through the air. Yeah, Bo Nix is taking a step back from last year. I get that. But I'm going to trust the defense. I'm not going to say that they're necessarily the better defense because Kansas City's pretty good, but they ain't bad. I'm going to take Denver plus the 4 at home, 23-20 Denver.
All right, VR's got the biggest dog this week and maybe one of the uglier dogs on the board. Go ahead and tell us why you like the Cleveland Browns. You just have to know that you're going to have to face the comment section for it later.
Bring it. I was off last week. I went 1-2 in the NFL. Tell you when I win, tell you when I lose. Here's where I stand. I'm 17-9-1 in the NFL. 18-11-1 now after the 1-2 last week. That's 60%. I'll take it in the NFL. Close to 80% in college football. Combine those two, 44-18-1, 70% bet on it. Saturday's college football, Sunday's NFL combined. Smash that like button, hit those comments up. I love reading them. Now, we're going to go straight to the Cleveland Browns. And here's a spot where we're not necessarily betting the Cleveland Browns. We are fading the Baltimore Ravens, who it's about time the market does what it's supposed to do, and that's correct itself against this red-hot Ravens team that's outperforming the betting market. First, let's look at the series. These two teams have been splitting the season series going back now 4 or 5 years. That's just what they do. Don't matter who's favored, who's dog. They just split that season series. So trend-wise, that looks good for Cleveland. More importantly, when the one team gets blown out or as a dog wins outright, They end up losing the split. If you look back over the season series, the last 10 games. And what's happening here? Baltimore blew them out back in September, 41-17. Trend series-wise, nod to Cleveland. Then I look at Cleveland's quarterback. Big downgrade in the betting market, but I don't think it's warranted with this Daniel Gabriel because played a really good game last week. I thought so. If you look at that box score, he's got a 64.1 rating QBR. If you look at the season, nothing to brag about. But when I look at Lamar, looking at his season, his last 10 games, going back obviously with last season because of the injury, it's 82.1. Again, he's above NFL average in passing success rate, but not in the top 10, or he's barely just cracked the top 10, maybe after last week. So again, Lamar is who he is, but I believe that they're getting just a little bit too much of an upgrade, and Cleveland's getting a little bit too much of a downgrade. Now, Baltimore also, like I said, coming in off 3 straight wins, 3 straight covers. They were favored in all those games, so they did what they're supposed to do, win the game. They also did against the spread, which is why I think this line came out higher than it should. A little recency bias. Because the other end of that spectrum is the perfect storm. You have Cleveland coming off a game where they lost as favorites. Now, remember, back-to-back road games. In fact, Cleveland's played 3 of the last 4 weeks on the road. 3 of their last 4 games on the road. Now, finally return home where they've played really well. They're 2-2 at home. They haven't been blown out by margin. In fact, they lost to Cincinnati by only 1 point. They lost to Minnesota by only 4 points, so they have a good, strong home field advantage. They're 0-5 on the road. Remember, that's what we're looking at. We take a cumulative of their last 10 years, point differential to see what the actual home field advantage is, but then you want to look at how about this season? Are they playing better at home than on the road? And this split is as huge as you get. 0-5 on the road, 2-2 at home. In fact, their only games they've won this year are at home. So catching all these points, I'll take this team that's had the 6th toughest schedule, top 15 defense in efficiency. And let's not forget, Baltimore also barely top 15. These defenses in efficiency-wise are right next to each other, 15 and 16. Enough to keep Cleveland in the game. I get it. Baltimore offense way ahead. That's fine. That's why we're catching a touchdown. Give me Cleveland plus the points. Sprinkle that money line. Divisional game. Stranger things have happened. Just look at the series.
I was going to use Baltimore for Survivor, and now...
They're a 500 team on the road. Be careful. I know, but that was without Lamar. I understand.
Oh, that does make me a little uneasy. I have not locked in my Survivor pick yet. Obviously, it's only Wednesday, but now I may have to converse with my teammate. All right, my barking dog could not have been my best bet. My best bet was going to be my barking dog, but I didn't like this game as much as I liked the best bet, so here we go. We're going to take the Carolina Panthers here, and I understand that the talking heads and the rage is all going to be, oh, look at that 30-0 revenge angle from earlier in the season. Yeah, that's right, when the Panthers destroyed Falcon Survivor bettors, and everybody got all upset. And I thought, that's a ridiculous take. Yes, Carolina off a loss last week by the Saints makes them a little undesirable. But here's something I found in the gold sheet. And I thought, man, what an interesting point. Okay. Falcons just lost in Berlin. So they elected not to use this bye week after the international game. The other teams that didn't do that, the Browns, the Jets, and the Broncos. So what happened in those games? In the Browns' next game, after playing in London, they scored 9 points, and the game stayed under the total by a touchdown. The Jets, after playing in London, scored 6 points, and the game stayed under by 21 points. In the Broncos game, after playing the Jets in London, Denver was held scoreless for the first 3 quarters, and then you guys remember what happened in the final minutes versus the Giants. So the gold sheet's saying we've got a sample size of 11 quarters from teams that elected not to take their bye week after playing across the pond. We've got an unrested Atlanta squad here laying points. Give me the points here. I think this is a great spot for Carolina to bounce back after that Saints loss. Marco D'Angelo. I know you don't always look at bounce back spots because you're looking for those sandwiches, and those sandwiches have been paying dividends this year. Please let everybody know where they can watch the extended version of the Deli and who or what sandwich we're cooking up this week.
Well, Kelly, it comes out every Thursday, and if you're a Wager Talk Insider member, you get a chance to watch that early, is the Insider members do, but it will be out Thursday night. It's an extended version of what we do here on the show. We give out 5 plays, and it has been fantastic. We've had 7 winning weeks, 2 losing weeks, 1 break-even week, and that has resulted in a record of 32-17 after last week's 5-0 sweep on the show. So look for that on Thursday. And then, of course, it'll be included in the mega version of Bet On It, the college and pro, where we put everything in one big show for you. This week, Kelly, no sandwich for you in the NFL, but I'm bringing you a trap. It's a trap. And we're going to take a look at Washington and Miami. And the most shocking outcome of last week had to be the Miami Dolphins upsetting Buffalo. And I've said it over and over again, bad teams are going to show up for division games when they can play spoiler or a national TV game. Now, that was a division game for Miami. They were able to beat Buffalo. But let's be honest, Buffalo was in a bad spot last week. Why? Well, they had already beaten Miami at home. Yeah, the game was closer than it probably should have been, that game at home, but they did beat Miami, but they were coming off a very satisfying win the week before. Why? Well, they played the Kansas City Chiefs, playoff revenge, and they kept that streak going. I think it's now 9 straight. If you just play Buffalo in the regular season versus KC and play KC in the playoffs versus Buffalo. So for them to be flat last week is not a big shock. Now they're going to play a Washington team. And again, this is a team that has lost 4 in a row. They've been embarrassed. So why do I want to take a team like that? Well, this is a standalone game. So why not take Miami? Well, they're both playing bad. They're both having bad seasons, and Miami's coming off the win where Washington's coming off another ugly loss. But look at the last 4 weeks. 3 of those teams were Kansas City, Seattle, and Detroit. All of those teams, Seattle and Detroit, are having great seasons. Kansas City, as we talked about in the other video, are still the favorite to win the Super Bowl, even with their record right now. So they've had a tough schedule. I think Washington is a team that's going to want this one more. I just can't trust the Miami team with a lame duck coach, in my opinion, to travel across the pond, play in Spain, in Spain. This one's not in London, but it's a situation where I just don't see them showing up. Buffalo had 3 turnovers last week. That's the main reason Miami won that game. If Washington doesn't turn the football over this week, they win this game, and I like them plus the points. I just do not trust Miami. They should not be favored over anybody. Let's take Washington 27-20.
Okay, let's get into those best bets as we hit the home stretch here of week 11 in the NFL. VR, you're going to go first, but please let everybody know what you got going on at wagertalk.com before you give us your best bet for this week.
Oh, yeah. I just almost changed my best bet. So in other words, subscribers, you're getting another 4% later on today. Yeah, if you're betting college football and NFL, you're getting my package already. Look at the year we're having. Over 100 units up in college football. Having another big package up. No 5%, just firing 4%. Same with the NFL. Put that package up. All the 4% go in there. Primetime games. Everything, college basketball, UFC card this week with a 5% in it. That's the only 5% we're firing. The biggest bet I'm making is in the UFC on Saturday. Just a lot of action, man. Jump on board. Great time. College basketball power ratings are up and running. Same math guy as the college football. So excited about the next few months. Close out the year with bowl games and playoffs. Great time. Head on over to wagertalk.com. And again, every day I try to put out best free premiums. I think I put out like 3 tennis plays the other day that swept the board. So make sure you check that every day. Now, let me get to my best bet. Like I said, I almost changed it up, but I'm going to stick to it because they forced me to get to the window when the San Francisco line jumped up to 3. The look ahead made sense. Listen, it's a coin flip. Recency, San Francisco's looked better a little bit. So I get it. But now that you're talking about a big number, a key number of 3 with an Arizona team that at home has just played tough. Like they're only 1-3, but they're not losing by margin. That's the key when you look at this team, that they're not getting blown out. They're coming in having covered 3 of 4 because of that, even though they've only won 1 game. And the reason for that is this: offensively and defensively, when you look at the efficiency and compare them to San Francisco, it's not all that much different. San Francisco is only a couple slots up on the offensive side of the ball, a couple slots up on the defensive side of the ball, and a slight advantage on strength of schedule. But all that is mitigated by the fact they are on the road playing a divisional rival in a team like Arizona, that I do expect to get their full effort after getting blown out by Seattle. I mean, like they did, last week. And let's not forget, they were on the road back-to-back weeks after covering 3 straight. I think you're going to get a focused Arizona team at home that gives San Francisco a lot of problems. And you saw what San Francisco last week against a legit team like the Rams getting blown out. Arizona definitely has the offense and defense to keep this close. Take the 3, key number. I like Arizona, best bet.
All right, Marco, last week you gave out a team total, and well, that was just pretty dang easy. So this week you're going back to the well with another team total, which is interesting because we're kind of head-to-head here. And I mentioned on the college football show, when Marco and I have been head-to-head, it has been very bad for Kelly, at least in college football. So this is going to make for a fun last segment. Talk to me about what you got going on over at Wager Talk. I know you have a new special. Last week's birthday special is no longer.
Yeah, and I want to thank everybody for the birthday wishes last week, Kelly. They got into the comment section. I tried to answer as many of them as I could. And you guys, if you jumped on board that birthday bash package, you're happy. We had a nice week last week. It's been a nice 2 weeks, to be honest with you. The last 13 days, Kelly, 21-9 with all of our selections, up over $3,000 for our clients. We hit another 5% play. It was Nebraska. Outright winners, a small dog. And that brings the record on the 5% plays, 36-16 since February of 2024. Why do I bring up the 5% play? Well, because we're going to have another one of those this weekend. And the way to go, we've got a new special for you at Wager Talk. You can pick up any handicapper 10 days for $99. That's less than $10 a day. You can jump on board that package. But if you want to jump on yours truly through the Super Bowl and get every single play I have, there's 13 weeks between now and the Super Bowl, and every sport is rolling right now. You've got obviously college and pro football. You've got the NBA, college basketball is underway, hockey. We're winning in all of those sports. Give us a chance, jump on board through the Super Bowl. If you bought $99 a week, which is the regular weekly rate, 13 weeks, it would cost you just under $1,300 for that package. You can get it for $749. Head over to my homepage to check that out, wt.buzz/MD. All right, let's get to that team total, Kelly. Last week, we took the Lions team total over. Why? Because the Lions were coming off a shocking loss to a division rival. And we know that these teams have a tendency to bounce back in a big way off of a loss. And that's exactly what the Lions did. And we also know, I pointed out with the Lions that when they get a lead, Dan Campbell doesn't like to take his foot off the gas. So I didn't worry about them having a big lead and then going into trying just to run the clock out. Well, I think you're going to have the same type of situation here. Buffalo is going to rebound. They had an ugly game last week. 3 turnovers. Josh Allen had an interception and a fumble last week. They had a total of 3 turnovers, and that's what ended up doing them in. They came out flat as a pancake. Why? Well, you think maybe they were a little bit fat and sassy after that playoff revenge against Kansas City the week before. You're going to get a fully focused Buffalo team. And Josh Allen, he's going to be a beast this week after the bad performance last week. He still ended up passing for a lot of yards in that game, even with all of the turnovers, giving away possessions. And when I talked about keeping the foot on the gas, well, they're playing a Tampa Bay team, and this is going to bode well for you, Kelly. We know this team is never out of a game, and Baker Mayfield has brought this team back so many different times this year that if Buffalo does get that lead like I expect them to get, Tampa Bay is going to keep answering. And if Tampa Bay keeps answering, that means Buffalo's got to keep their foot on the gas and keep going. And we're looking at a team total of 27.5. I see Buffalo going over that team total. They've gone over that team total 6 of 9 games this year, and I see it happening again here. Let's go ahead and take Buffalo team total. I've got them hitting 31 or more in this game, Kelly. That's my team total. Only asterisk I'm going to put up on this one. Be sure to watch the weather on the weekend, of course, with Buffalo. Anything can happen with weather in Buffalo, and that would be the only thing that would squelch this play for me is if we have really bad weather come on the weekend, but that's not the case at this time.
All right, well, the good news about my best bet is that Marco and I can actually both win. You guys know I love 5.5-point underdogs. It's like my favorite trappy line in the NFL, and I also know that the Bucs were my best bet last week. But that's why we have to go back to the well with this team. I have been early so many weeks with some of these best bets. I think this is one of those. Buffalo 0-3 against the spread as a home favorite this season. And since October 2023, the Bills 9-12 against the spread as a home favorite. Here is a Bucs team that is number 1 in rushing success rate allowed this season. We all know how much I touted Baker Mayfield last week. And we know that sometimes those risks don't pay off. Sometimes they do. And as long as he's not too careless with the football this weekend, I think the Bucs can keep this one close. No Dalton Kincaid, at least not for this week. You know, Josh Allen losing one of his favorite weapons does not bode well for this offense. And besides playing Kansas City, what's going on with this offense? For some reason, they're loving running the football this season, just number 2 behind Seattle. Why? You got Josh Allen as your quarterback. What are you guys doing? Hopefully they don't figure that out for one more week, though. Coach Kelly is going to keep that one under wraps and hope that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers plus 5.5 comes through for us. Am I going to sprinkle a little bit on that money line? Yeah, I think I am. Let's get up that recap graphic, say bye to the guys, and hope that all of you guys have a profitable weekend. All righty. And if you guys are looking for that college football edition of Bet On It, it is right here. And of course, the mega show, college football, NFL, and all the specialty segments wrapped up into one. Hope you guys have a great week. As VR likes to say, cash them, don't trash them. Until next week, let's bet on it.
Can you believe it is week 11 now in the NFL? Welcome. I am Ralph Michaels. This is the Wager Talk TNA report. That, of course, means trends and angles. We're going to look at NFL teams off a late season bye. We're going to look at which divisions in the NFL are the best against the spread and over-under in non-division games. And as always, we're going to finish it off with 4 super systems, all 4 72% or higher, 3 of them at 80%. Let's get right to it. And how many times in the next few weeks are you going to read, this team is benefiting from a late season bye? So I wanted to run the numbers. We've had buys as early as game 4, as late as week 14. So here you see I went back since 2015. I have every bye every team has had broken down by the game number. This is the game number following the bye week. So if we're talking game 4, they had a bye in week 3 and now playing game 4. The first category are all the games. Then I broke them down if you're a home favorite, home dog, away favorite, and away dog. Well, let's just look at the first column. Guys, you got to remember, teams off NFL buys are often overrated. But look at the clean divide. Only one negative week from game 4 through game 8. But when you have a late season NFL bye now playing game 9 through the end of the year, there was only 1 week with a positive ATS number, and that's randomness, game number 13. Take a look at 46% game 9, 43% game 10, 50% game 11, 43% game number 12. Take a look if you're a home favorite. This does mean something to me. If you're a home favorite late in the season, you obviously have an advantage. And look, from game 11, 12, 13, and 14, we have 56%, 60%, 50%, and 57%. So takeaway number 1, home favorites late in the year a positive, overall buys late in the year not a positive. Home dogs, you see it's pretty split down the middle. Away favorites, early in the year, much more beneficial. Take a look at teams off a bye and now as an away favorite from game number 9 and later. 33%, 50%, 42%, 50%, 50%. Not one winning game number in that entire set. So, home favorites from game 11 on, a positive. Away favorites from game 9 on, a negative, or at best, 50-50. And away dogs, pretty much split in between there. So take a look at the chart, see if it helps you, and do not overreact to a team off a bye. For the most part, it's a negative for those teams off a bye. Good luck as we continue to look at those NFL teams coming with a bye week. This was from you guys. Someone had left a comment. They wanted to know, is it advantageous for one division to be looking at division records in non-division games? What I mean is this. Let's take a look at the chart. These are 2025 non-division games against the spread and over-under. Well, the NFC West, most people would perceive that as the best conference in the NFL. Take a look at their non-division records. NFC West teams in non-division games this year, 18-7, 72%. The AFC East, 58%. Those are the only 2 divisions that have an overall positive ATS record. On the very bottom, the NFC East and my pitiful Cleveland Browns and the AFC North. The NFC East teams in a non-division game, 46.2%. But take a look how bad the AFC North is. AFC North teams, 10-18, 36%. Take a look on the right-hand column. There's a lot of blues, guys. Non-division games have been overplays this year. And in fact, only one division playing non-division games has been under 50% in over-under records. That's the AFC West. The Denver defense, the KC defense, the Seattle defense. Those teams are 12-16, 43% over-under, or 57% to the under. But the AFC North, 68%. The AFC East, 65%. And the NFC West, 60% against the spread. So you're not blindly going to bet NFC West teams in non-division games, but it is important to realize that the perceived strength of a conference does carry over to these non-division games as we see the NFC West up top and the AFC North on the very bottom. Before I get to my 4 NFL super systems, we ask you just one thing. If you're watching this video, if you learned anything, just hit the like button. We don't ask for much. You hitting the like button, you leaving a comment, making a suggestion, something you like, something you dislike, you following Wager Talk TV allows you to become notified immediately when I load my videos or any of the Wager Talk handicappers load their videos. Over 300,000 people are following Wager Talk on their social media networks. Make sure you're part of the group. And also, again, thank you so much for everyone that's been on board for an incredible college football season. #1 the last 5 weeks in college football. 5% plays, 12-2. I'll have another this week. And remember, any capper at Wager Talk, this is a weekly special. You can get 10 days for $99. Normally, our 7-day all access is $99. That's like getting a free 3-day all access pass, which sells for $69 itself. $99 for 10 days of service will get you all of this week's football. And guess what? It can get you part of next week's football as well. Well, let's get to it. Our first two systems are actually over-under systems. Let's look at teams that are off an away win. Their opponent was also on the road, and the team off an away win is on the road this week. The line has to be from 3.5 to 3.5. That means from plus 3.5, crossing over 0 to minus 3.5, in that range, a closely competitive game. So the Lions are off an away win. They're on the road. The Eagles off a road game. The line between the 3.5s, teams in this instance have gone 15-36 over under. That is 29.4% or 71% to the under. System 1, Detroit and Philadelphia under the total. System number 2. This applies to the Jets and the Patriots. One team is off a win as a dog. 2 games ago, they won as an away dog, and now they're on the road again. So you win as an away dog, you win as a dog, and now you're traveling again. Since 2007, those teams like the Jets fit into this situation with an over-under record of 21, 45, and 3. That is 31.8%, or basically 68% to the under. System 2, the New York Jets and New England Patriots under the total. Last two systems. The road team is off a loss as a home favorite. They are now a favorite of -4 or more, and their opponent is off a loss. So we have the Packers off a Monday night loss. They're an away favorite of 4 or more. Now they're playing the Giants, who also lost last week. System 3 says to play on the Green Bay Packers. The ATS record since 2014, 29, 10, and 3, 80% against the spread. System 3, the Green Bay Packers. Our fourth and final system. This is a division game. You lost each of the last 2 games against this division foe. You are now a favorite. And you're off a game where you played a non-division foe as a dog or more favorite. And this goes back to 2017. It applies to 2 teams this week. It applies to the Steelers versus the Bengals, and it applies to the Falcons and the Panthers. Those teams with double revenge, like Pittsburgh and Atlanta, now the favorite. How about 6-23, 20.7% against the spread, or basically a 79% fade. System 4, fade Pittsburgh and fade Atlanta. Hit that like button. Follow me on X or Twitter at CalSportsLV. Take advantage of the 10 days for $99 and have a great weekend of football. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to watch this video.
It feels like I've been selling a lot the last couple of weeks. I sold Pittsburgh. I sold Carolina the last 2 weeks. This week, let's buy someone. Let's buy the Dallas Cowboys. Coming off a bye, they play the Raiders this Sunday. Look what they have after that. Philly, Kansas City, Detroit, Minnesota, the next 4 games. And whenever we're talking stock watch, I'm always talking about a 5-game sample size. That way we're always going to have a win or a loss. So we can tell if we were able to pick to buy low and sell high appropriately. Over the next 5 games, they got 3 straight step-up in class games after the Raiders Monday night. They'll be underdogs in all 3 of those contests, even though 2 of them are home. And I think it might be a good opportunity right now to buy low on a Cowboys team that the betting markets don't have a lot of respect for. Just look at the number against the Raiders. Raiders have been awful, and Dallas is laying 3.5 in that ballgame. It's not like there's this huge groundswell of support for the Cowboys right now because their defensive numbers are awful. But offensively, this team can trade points with anyone. We know what kind of weapons Dak Prescott has, and Prescott's having a really good season. That offense, by the way, right now coming out of the bye, fully healthy. Just about every player is as good as any team in the league in terms of offensive talent and health put together. Dallas can score points. Dallas can even score points against good defenses. The issue, obviously, for the Cowboys this season has been on the defensive side of the football, and we saw them score 40 against Green Bay and not get the win there. 27 against Carolina, didn't get the win there. It's been a defense that has had issues. That being said, when you're talking about bringing in someone like Williams on the defensive line, again, buyers at the trade deadline. They brought in Clark. I want to talk about Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is a long way in the rearview mirror now. All of a sudden, Dallas has a strong defensive line, and a defensive line that can get pressure, which will make their secondary better, which will make the whole back 7 better. And it's a defense that right now, what are they, 29th in the NFL in yards per play allowed? There's only one way that defense can go, and that's up. I think they get better. First-year head coach, so they're buying in. It's not such a scenario where it's going to be Dallas is, all right, we're going to play for next year. That's not what we're looking at for the Cowboys. I think this team is capable of making a second-half run to make things interesting, and I think there is point spread value with Dallas right now moving forward.
Who's hungry? The deli's open. Hey guys, Marco D'Angelo here for Marco's Deli, powered by WagerTalk.com. Guys, if you've been following along this season here on Marco's Deli, you have been winning. Another huge week last week as we went 5-0 here on the show. That brings the record to 7 winning weeks, 2 losing weeks, and 1 break-even week, or that translates to 32-17 against the spread. Want to thank everybody that's been following along. I want to thank everybody for all those birthday wishes last week, as I truly appreciated that as well. And let's get to this week's show and appreciate those thumbs up that you guys have been giving us and leaving us comments. It really helps the channel out. Let's get started with play number 1. And guys, if you've been following along, UConn, Connecticut has been printing money for us all year long. Whether we've been taking them or going against them, UConn has treated us very well. And last week we went we went with them because we were going against Duke. Why? Well, Duke was in fat and sassy mode because they won a big game over Clemson the week before. And I thought they would look right past Connecticut. And Connecticut did exactly what I thought they would. They'd take it to Duke. It was a shootout, but we got the easy cover with the spread as Connecticut won outright as an underdog, 37-34. So now all of those reasons that we went with Connecticut last week, now we're going against them because they're the ones on fat and sassy alert, coming off beating an ACC team. That's a big deal, beating a Power 5 school for Connecticut. And I just don't see them being totally focused this week, especially because they got to play Air Force. Air Force, you know what's coming. They're going to run the football 50-plus times with that option attack. You know how hard it is to stop that option attack, and it's hard enough to stop it when you only have a week to do it and you don't play them every year, makes it even tougher. doing it in 1 week, doing it off of a big win where you might be a little fat and sassy. And then to make matters worse this year in defending Air Force, not only are they going to jam the ball down your throat 50 plus times, but this team this year actually passes the football. They're averaging 15 passes a game for 169 yards. That's going to make them mighty tough to defend this week. I think it's going to be tough for Connecticut to get prepared. I'm going to go ahead, call for another shootout. We're getting 6.5 or 7 points here. It was 7 overnight. I'm seeing 6.5 Thursday morning as we're taping this. I like it either way because we got Air Force winning outright 34-31. So for grading purposes, we're taking Air Force plus 6.5. Game number 2, Georgia Southern at Coastal Carolina. What am I doing even looking at a game like this? Well, let's take a look. Georgia Southern is just 4-5, and yet they're a 3-point favorite at home against Coastal Carolina. Why, you ask? Well, here's why. First off, Coastal Carolina has played a much softer schedule. Georgia Southern started the season with back-to-back road games on the West Coast, playing Fresno State and Southern Cal. That was tough on their part. Last week, Coastal Carolina became bowl eligible. They won their 6th game of the season. So you've got a natural letdown spot with Coastal Carolina because they're bowl eligible now. But it gets even better. Look who Coastal Carolina plays next week. It's what I like to refer to as a big brother versus little brother game. Coastal Carolina takes on SEC Power 5 team South Carolina. I always tell you, when we have these in-state battles, the little brother team is always going to be sky high to take a shot at big brother. And that's exactly what you have with Coastal Carolina going next week to play South Carolina. So this is the perfect sandwich spot, coming off becoming bowl eligible and having that big game with South Carolina next week. Let's go ahead, take Georgia Southern -3 as I have them winning this one 38-27. All right, let's go to play number 3 here on the Deli. East Carolina -3 against Memphis. At first glance, Memphis looks like a live dog. They have scored 32 or more points in 8 of their 10 games this year. But Memphis is in a very bad spot. They are coming off what I like to refer to as the Dream Crusher game. What is the Dream Crusher game, you ask? Well, that is the game immediately following a loss that eliminates you from your season goal. Last Friday night on national TV, they were at home and lost to Tulane. That was a big loss. Had they won that game, they would have been 5-1 in the conference, tied for first place with Navy, and 9-1 overall. And they would have been in position to win the at-large bid for the national playoffs. That's all gone now with that loss last week to Tulane. This is East Carolina's final home game of the season, and they are 4-1 in conference play. East Carolina can still win the conference. East Carolina is 6-3 overall, with 2 of their losses coming to Power 5 teams, NC State and BYU. I think East Carolina has played a tougher schedule. I expect Memphis to be flat after losing a game that they needed so badly. Plus, that game was on TV on Friday night at home. All things that have them set to lose the same game twice. I'm going to go ahead and lay the 3 points with East Carolina, and let's call it East Carolina 35, Memphis 24. All right, guys, here, before we get to the final 2 games of the show, got to do a little business. You know the drill. We've got this week $49 Weekend Warrior. That's available as it always is. You can pick up Saturday and Sunday football for just $49. But if you want to get 10 days of all of my plays, and guys, we are on a roll. Last 14 days, 22-9 for a net profit of $3,365. Those of you that took advantage of the birthday bash last week, you know what we did, including that big 5% play on Nebraska underdog that won outright. That brings our record to 36-16 on those 5% plays. Well, we've got another 5% play going this week. You can pick up that play. 36-16 since February of 2024. That would be included in this 10-day all access package. Also available this week, an even better deal. You like that $64 special last week for a week? How would you like to get the rest of the season for less than $60 a week? You can get all of my plays in every sport, football, basketball, hockey, all the way through the Super Bowl for $749. There's 13 weeks of service left from now to the Super Bowl. You'll get everything. A week, your regular rate is $99. So you're looking at just under $1,300 if you buy the week. I'm giving it to you for $749 if you buy the Super Bowl package right now. You'll get every play in every sport, including those 5% plays. Head on over to wagertalk.com to check it out. Also, this is the point of the show where I ask you one more time to hit that like button. Leave me a comment. I love talking to you guys in the comment section. I enjoy hearing where all you guys are watching us from, and I like to answer those questions. So leave me a comment, leave that thumbs up, and we will converse in the comment section on YouTube. All right, we got two more plays. Let's get to them. Texas State at Southern Miss. Wow, this line smells fishy, guys. If you take a look at this one, Southern Miss is 5-0 in conference play. They're 7-2 overall. Yet they're just a 4-point favorite over Texas State, who is 0-5 in the conference and 3-6 overall. They're absolutely begging you to take Southern Miss in this game. Last Saturday, Southern Miss beat Arkansas State on the road 27-21, giving them sole possession of first place. Had they lost that game last week, Southern Miss would have been in a three-way tie for first place. This puts Southern Miss on fat and sassy alert. It also must be noted that Arkansas State, in the loss last week, had 6 turnovers. Even though they had 6 turnovers in that game, Southern Miss was only able to beat them by 6 points. That tells me Southern Miss was very lucky to win that game last week. Southern Miss has trouble stopping the run. Texas State is a 200 club member. What's a 200 club member? That is a team that runs and passes for over 200 yards per game. It's tough to defend those type of teams because you don't know which to try to defend, which to take away. If you take away the running game, they're going to beat you with the passing game. If you try to stop the passing game, they're going to run the football down your throat. That makes Texas State very dangerous dog in this one. I think this game is a trap. Southern Miss only -4 when you look at the difference in records. I'm going to go ahead, take Texas State. I think this one goes right down to the wire. It's going to be a field goal game. Let's call for the upset. Let's take Texas State +4 as they win it 31-28. All right, last one. It's the NFL game. You guys know what's happened with these NFL plays. 9-1 on the season. Guys, I don't just tell you about the winners, man. We give you the plays here. We prove our ability to win every single week right here on Marco's Deli for free. Our NFL plays 9-1 for the season. This week, we're going with Arizona +3 against San Francisco. Both teams are coming off bad losses last week, but the public is more willing to forgive the 49ers' bad performance. Why? Well, let's start with it. It was against the Rams. Public perception, the Rams are one of the best teams in the NFL. So they are very forgiving when the 49ers lose to the Rams. B, it's the 49ers. The public still loves the 49ers, even though this team is absolutely decimated on defense with injuries. C, Arizona lost to Seattle last week. Both teams got blown out last week, but the public views the Rams is a much better team than Seattle. They're undervaluing this Seattle team. Guys, I'm going to tell you, Seattle's for real. They're not doing it with smoke and mirrors. This team is for real. Now, you look at those injuries I talked about with San Francisco, that defense is getting wore down. If you look at their last 5 games, 4 of those 5 games, listen to what they've given up. 30 points to Tampa, 26 points to Houston. Houston's had trouble scoring all year. 24 points to the New York Giants, who just fired their coach last week, and 42 points last week to the Rams. Do you really want to be laying points on the road with a defense that's getting shredded right now? The only team that San Francisco was able to hold in check was Atlanta on Sunday Night Football. They were at home, and Michael Penix Jr. had a horrible game. I like Arizona in this one. And if you go back to last week's game with Arizona at Seattle, that was their second game in a row on the road. They played the week before on Monday Night Football and won. And then they had to play again on the road on a short week. It's hard enough to play back-to-back road games, but when you've got to do it on the road on a short week and it's against a division rival like Seattle, it's even tougher. I think the wrong team is favored in this game. I know that sounds crazy. At worst, I think this game should have been a pick 'em. No way the 49ers, with all of their injuries, should be -3. I'm going to go ahead, take Arizona to get this one done. Let's take Arizona +3. Arizona 24, San Francisco 20. All right, guys, that's it for this week's Deli. I hope you enjoyed the show. Give us that thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button. It's free, and you'll be notified every time there is a new video at Wager Talk. And until next week, guys, let's eat good. The deli's open. Let's cash some tickets. I will talk to you guys next week. Good luck.
It's hard to believe that college football week 12 is here. We've got barking dogs off another epic week. We've got those TV games talking about those top 25 matchups. We're going to get this team report from VR. We're going to check in with Marco to see if that Deli is still red hot. And of course, we've got best bets up next on Bet On It. Kelly Stewart here with Yanni the Greek in the middle, Marco D'Angelo there in the third chair. We're going to go over these top 25 games, starting with number 9, Notre Dame, -12.5, taking on number 23, Pittsburgh, noon Eastern, total 55.5 here, VR. This one's an interesting one because you did a video on the Wager Talk social channels talking about power ratings. And clearly, these two, even though they're not far away in the AP poll, coaches poll, and so forth, are light years away from a power ratings perspective.
Well said, Kelly. And coming off a nice 3-0 last week in college football for Bet On It, right now I'm 26-7 on the show, 79%. I got more gold for you this week, but just going to make a disclaimer. Been selective with those premium cards on Saturday in college football. As you see, no reason to fire 5%, just a bunch of 4% and spreading out our risk. And that's got me at number 1 in profit. With that said, I'm coming off a losing week in college football. Tell you when I win, tell you when I lose. 12 weeks so far, we've won 10 of those. And I really feel strongly about this week's card. But some of these lines have moved. And here's what I'm talking about. I bet Notre Dame already. I sent it out to my subscribers at -10. And the only reason this wasn't a 5% play is because this is exactly what I thought was going to happen. Wise guys are going to see the exact same things that I'm seeing, and they are going to jump on the Notre Dame side. Why? Because these are two very different 7-2 teams. And that's why I love college sports, because of those rankings that allow us to take advantage of the narratives. You don't have that in pro sports. Same thing with college basketball. And yes, I am using those power ratings in college basketball. And for the first time, I have my guy making them in NBA as well. Not going to use them to bet, but just going to monitor this first year. But college basketball, same dude that did college football is doing college basketball as well. So we could go over those maybe in Wager Talk today. Now, getting back to Notre Dame and Pittsburgh, two 7-2 teams, but very different 7-2 teams. And here's what I mean. Notre Dame, top 5 power rating in my power ratings right now. Luckily, the rankings have caught up and at least have Notre Dame in their top 10. But here's what you're looking at with Notre Dame. They have a top 25 strength of schedule. So they played one of the toughest strength of schedules so far. And they've managed to have the 5th most efficient offense. And more importantly, the third most efficient defense. So they're top 5 in the 2 most important categories. When I look at the Pittsburgh side, they've had the 69th toughest schedule, okay? And they've managed to be the 58th most efficient defense. Now going up against a top 5 offense, are you kidding me? Their offense looks pretty good. They cracked the top 20 in efficiency, Pittsburgh. But again, that's against the 69th toughest strength of schedule. They're now facing the top 3 defense that's a legitimate top 3 that's done it against the top 25 schedule. That's what they're running into with Notre Dame, and that's why this total's dropping. Pittsburgh will not score many points on Saturday, rest assured. Notre Dame in a one-sided blowout. I like Notre Dame. I like the under as well. 4% on Notre Dame at -10. We bought the half point down. I think this one's good up until about -13. Again, value gets extracted with every point that moves. I'm not going to bet the same at -12, 12.5 that I did at -10, but I still think Notre Dame gets it done on Saturday. And like I said, I think they keep the game under as well because only one side's going to do the scoring. Give me Dame minus the points.
Very interesting. Marco, I know you had a point you wanted to interject with really quick before we got to your TV game.
Yeah, hey, so back up what you're thinking with Notre Dame. In the press conference this week, everybody's making a big deal about game day being here in Pittsburgh. You know, that's a rarity and everything. And they asked Coach Narduzzi, how big is this game for the Pitt Panthers this season? And I didn't like his answer at all. And what he said was, this is a non-conference game. Our focus is ACC. We're looking at getting to the ACC championship game, and that's our, it's almost like he's already setting up an excuse for losing to Notre Dame.
Dude, Notre Dame watched them beat Florida State as 10-point dogs. They're getting Notre Dame's full attention because Pittsburgh's coming in on 5 straight wins, 5 straight covers. That's the problem for Pittsburgh. If this was a bad Pittsburgh team, then Notre Dame may be in trouble. But they got their full attention. This is going to get ugly for Pittsburgh. He's already making excuses because he's seen the game film. He knows how it's going to turn out for his team.
And we probably know he's good for at least one kicking is for losers moment. Marco, we're going to get to a SEC matchup here, 3:30 Eastern. Number 11, Oklahoma, is a 6.5-point underdog. Number 4, Alabama, 46.5 here is the total. We know I love the underdogs. Oklahoma on my long list. Do you agree with me here?
Well, Kelly, Alabama got me the money last week. It was a little closer than I thought it was going to be, but they ended up getting the money in the end. And I'm going to come right back to them. And let's give LSU credit. We really didn't know how they were going to respond, with the firing of Brian Kelly. We know that most teams do have that spark, but because it was such a big program and they had such high expectations, I wasn't sure that LSU would show up last week, but they did. Alabama was able to win the game. Did they take LSU for granted? A big name like that, you would say no, but given the season LSU's had in this game on deck, maybe they did have one eye to Oklahoma, because if you look at the schedule, after this one, it's clear sailing for Alabama and to get to the SEC championship game, get to the national playoffs, and maybe get back to the championship game. Alabama has struggled to run the football the last 2 games, 72 and 56 yards the last 2. That's a little bit of a concern, but let's look at what they do well. In their passing game has averaged just under 300 yards per game. Oklahoma's had trouble with some good passing teams. When they faced Ole Miss and Tennessee, they gave up 315 yards passing to Ole Miss and 393 to Tennessee. So Alabama should be able to move the football against this Oklahoma defense. And whenever you flip the script and Alabama is on defense and Oklahoma's trying to score, they're not facing Ole Miss and Tennessee defenses this week. They're facing a legit defense. Alabama has only allowed one team all year to top 24 points. And that was week 1 in that. And I'm still trying to figure out how they lost to Florida State in that opening week. Oklahoma will struggle on defense to stop Alabama. I'm going to go ahead. I'm laying it with the Crimson Tide. I've got Alabama winning 30-17.
Yeah, and I kind of suspected that. I was joking with Ariel Epstein this morning at breakfast, and I said, oh, God, I hate being head-to-head with Marco this year. For whatever reason, I got one win, luckily by the hook, with Northwestern versus you and Nebraska. Otherwise, it has been all one-sided. It has been all Marco D'Angelo when we disagree. Another SEC matchup for you guys here on Saturday evening, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Number 10, Texas is a 6.5-point underdog at number 5, Georgia, 48.5. And look, just mentioned to Marco, I love these underdogs. So, of course, here I am going, how can I make a case for Texas? And you'd think Texas is coming off a bye. Last year, remember, Georgia went into Austin, won 30-15, but the final score wasn't as bad as the beating that actually was. And then, of course, Texas had opportunities to beat Georgia in the SEC championship game, couldn't get it done. Both of those games stayed under the total. And that's kind of where I'm looking in this one, because I do not trust Arch Manning. I do not trust Texas, and I do not trust Steve Sarkisian. Steve Sarkisian versus top 10 teams in his career, 5-18, 2-8 at Texas. But you know who I do trust? Oh, that's right. I trust the Texas Longhorns defense. I think Georgia playing their level of ball against this team is going to go down to the wire. But I think this is going to be a close, low-scoring game. Let's call it Georgia 24, Texas 20. Texas may get the cover for you guys. I just do not trust Sark to be able to win this football game. We got a Steam report coming up here with VR. And if you guys are new here, we do something every single Sunday at Wager Talk called the Steam Room, where VR comes in after Wager Talk's last call with Ariel Epstein. And he goes over everything headed into the NFL season. And now we don't do that on Saturday, but we give you guys a little preview of it here on Wednesdays on Bet On It.
Indeed. And a little preview each day on Wager Talk today when I go in the morning and share that college basketball steam, NBA steam, currently top 3 in profit. Number 1 coming for you in college basketball. Power ratings getting stronger and stronger each and every day. Now, here's what I did with college football, just like the last 2 weeks, narrowed down those 10 moves that are the most legit this early on, where I haven't seen resistance only in one game. I'm going to share it because it's a high profile game. And we had follow through from any look ahead action. So let's dive right in. All of it is on Saturday. 321 Air Force plus the 8. 333 Marshall plus minus 5.5. Forgive me, all the way up to the key number of -7. So they laid the key 7 on Marshall. 339 Virginia plus 6.5. Plus 6. Seems they're getting out ahead of the public because the public's on Virginia as well. 342 Florida State laid the 11.5, which was kind of like a look ahead, laid the 13, laid 13.5 as well on Florida State. Notre Dame, talked about them a little earlier, from -10 opener, which we got down on, that's what they pay me for, to -11 that got hit yesterday. 357 Oklahoma plus the touchdown. 363, forgive me, Texas State, not a sexy team, but got hit by multiple groups at 6.5, 6, and then 5.5 again. Arkansas, LSU, bringing this one up because we did see two-sided action. Arkansas, plus 6.5, plus 6, plus 5.5, plus 5. Got the 4.5, and that's when you saw the LSU money come in. I thought it would happen at -4. Didn't even wait for that. They came in right away at -4.5 and laid the LSU side. So obviously a difference of opinion there. 387 Michigan -10 and 11. And finally, no surprise, 393 TCU plus 6, 5.5 and 5 versus the phony BYU team, which will be exposed eventually as shouldn't be ranked. So,
just shouldn't even be ranked. Wow.
No.
Yeah,
No
you're going to upset some people in the comment section there. If you guys have a comment for us.
I mean, unless you're going, 30 teams out, they're not top 20. They're top 30. Top 30.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Well, if you guys disagree with VR or if you agree with them, drop it in the comment section. And if you like this next segment, which you should because we've been cashing at such a great rate of underdogs. Let us know what you think of this week's dogs. Send us a little note and we'll be sure to get back to you. Marco D'Angelo, you get to go first. Last week's barking dog cashed for you, and I should have tailed you, and I didn't, and I regretted it immediately.
All right, Kel. Well, this week we're going to the game that VR just talked about, Arkansas and LSU. I'm on the Arkansas side. Arkansas, they're 2-7. I'm going to tell you this right now, and this is going to sound stupid, but they're the best 2-7 team in the country. They've lost 7 in a row. 5 of those 7 losses were by 7 points or less. Turnovers have killed this team all season long. In those 7 losses, they were on the wrong side of a 13-4 turnover margin. And yet they still managed to have 5 one-score losses. When you're minus, more than 2 turnovers in a game, you're supposed to lose those games and lose them by a margin. They're not. That tells you this team is much better than their record is. Now, LSU, they've lost 3 in a row. But here's the part why I'm fading them is they did give that good effort against Alabama. So they did rise to the occasion, try to get it done the first game without Brian Kelly. But what was it? They ended up losing the game because of the same reason that probably got Brian Kelly fired. They've got no offense. They scored 9 points last week against Alabama. I cannot lay points with this team. And to me, they showed up last week. How do they come with anything this week? Please don't tell me about pride. Please don't tell me that they've got 5 wins and they're trying to get bowl eligible. Do you really think these kids in today's new age of college football and NIL money really are excited about going to a bowl game that's going to be a shit bowl that half of them will probably opt out of even if they did make it to the bowl game? Why? Because they're going to be looking at where they're going next year to get paid with the NIL. I don't see this team showing up here. This is a rivalry game. Remember when LSU and Arkansas back in the day was every Thanksgiving? It was that Friday or Saturday on the docket, and this was a big rivalry game. Well, LSU has better, bigger rivalries, but for Arkansas, this is still huge. I look for them to come to play in this one. They'll control the game with their running game. This is a team that's run for 175 yards or more in 7 of 9 games this year. And in 3 of the last 4, they've run the ball for 239 yards or more. If you can control the line of scrimmage, you're going to win the football game. I've got Arkansas winning this one. Let's take Arkansas, which could be finally in a shootout for LSU. Because the Arkansas defense leaves a little bit to be desired. I've got Arkansas winning 31-27.
May I interject, Kelly, really quickly? Arkansas, Marco, Arkansas, 2-7 Arkansas, based on my power ratings, would be a 1-point favorite on a neutral field against 7-2 Pittsburgh. Yes, yes. They have a top 10 strength of schedule. They're top 15 most efficient offense in all of college football, with a top 10 strength of schedule. And the schedule gets even harder the last few games for this team. They're legit at 2-7, as legit as a 2-7 can get. You're right.
Marco, I also don't know how many LSU kids are going to be leaving because I just got this text about 7 seconds ago. Do you want to take a guess who the front runner is currently on FanDuel to be the next head coach of the LSU Tigers?
Who?
Nick Saban right now is 2-1. 2-1.
Wow.
Bring them to Baton Rouge. Get them to Baton Rouge, bro.
That would be absolutely bananas. Maybe that might keep those kids hanging around just a little bit longer. VR, a dog that is on my long list, so I'm happy to see it on your barking dog list. You had Wake Forest last week. I said I liked Wake Forest, and they elected to go with Mizzou. But that's beside the point. Maybe I should be listening to you guys for my 3-team underdog parlay. But I do like Sparty this week. Can you tell everybody why you do as well?
Yeah, and because this is the only dog I have so far this week. But no, in a more serious note, it is. But I don't. I keep it real. I didn't place a great bet because I betted it at +7. I thought they would get steamed and the 7s would be gone. I could get 7.5 today. So obviously I didn't get the best of it. And that worries me. When my sharpest shop has 7.5, I would have rather seen 6.5 this morning. With that said, I'm locked in. My bet's placed. And here's why I like it. Number one, I've been high on Penn State, saying they are undervalued because of their record. But, they were a top 30, top 20, top 10 at one point power rated team when they weren't even in the rankings anywhere. And again, that was based on their record. And they haven't been able to get W's, but they've covered 2 of their last 3 games. And here's the problem for Penn State right now. They've just gone through a murderer's row in back-to-back weeks. They had to travel to Ohio State and face the best team in the country. Physical game, got beat up, lost by 24 points. Following week, play a legit Indiana at home. Top 3 in my power ratings. Right there to win that game as 2 touchdown dogs. Don't get the W. Lose that game. Heartbreaking. Now you got to travel to Michigan State, who's been outperforming the betting market, even though they're not winning games, because they're not losing by margin, which tells me this is a team that's continuously giving me effort week in and week out. They're just undermanned. That's the bottom line. But they're outperforming the betting market. And in most cases, you would think that the betting market would catch up. But this is the problem, is who they're playing. It's that Penn State side. And the reason Penn State's so beat up right now is because they've played the 13th toughest schedule in all of college football. They've managed to be top 15 offense and defense with that kind of schedule, but it's not producing W's. And when that starts to happen over and over and over again, it just gets harder to get yourself up and play games like this. I think Michigan State at home is able to keep this close, a lot closer than that line reflects. Another team that's, decent strength of schedule, top 30, offense, defense. Again, nothing a lot to brag about Michigan State. So I'm not going to sit here and talk about them like they're world beaters. But I just think this is a bad spot for Penn State. It's more of a fade on Penn State than a bet on Michigan State. Like I said, I'm locked in at +7. Don't like 7.5s out there, but if you agree with me, you're going to get a better number. If not, we'll see what happens Saturday. But Michigan State's my dog of the week.
Yeah, VR. And look, I think a lot of times some of these underdogs that we have, and the reason why we think they're barking isn't necessarily a play on the team. It's a play against another, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of my whole theory
I
here.
like when it's the perfect storm, when it's both. Like, that's when you feel really strong, when you like the side and you want to fade that other team. Like, those are the perfect storms. But yeah, sometimes it's a play on or against. And I agree. This is definitely a play. Because again, there's not a lot to like with Michigan State. Let's be real. Other than they're keeping it close and they're showing effort over the last couple of weeks. And this is a home game, and they have a strong home field advantage based on their record. They haven't won a single road game. Anything they've done at home, where Penn State has played horrible on the road. So I like the splits. There's that to lean on Michigan State, but otherwise there's not. And I'm not going to waste the viewers' time sitting here talking up Michigan State like they're great. No, it's a fade of Penn State.
What'd you say last week? That Wake Forest was shit. And guess what? They got it done for you.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
You're stepping in it again this week with another shitty team. Let's see if they can't get it done for you here.
Top 70 in my power ratings, though.
Oh boy, the comment section is going to have a lot of fun today. VR mentioned a perfect storm here. I'm hoping I have a perfect storm with the Arizona Wildcats catching 6.5. I understand they had to come from behind to beat the University of Kansas last week, but sometimes those types of wins do push teams into the following week. Now, Arizona, who missed a bowl game last year, is bowl eligible. They have the number 1 passing efficiency defense in the country. And that's why I'm looking to back them here. Yes, Cincinnati's off a bye, but prior to that bye, they lost to Utah. I know BYU just got absolutely eviscerated by VR, but BYU still looking to make a splash in the Big 12. And I think Cincinnati may be overlooking Arizona this week. Cincinnati gives up 31 yards per game, more than average, right? They're number 103 in the country there. And so keep in mind that Arizona and Fafita may be able to take advantage of that. Arizona, on the flip side, holds opponents to 63 yards below their average. That is a top 30 team in FBS. I think that Cincinnati at home is an advantage, right? We know Arizona, cold weather, Eastern time zone does not necessarily bode well for this West Coast team, but I think Arizona has them in a dogfight late. I know it's not a technical sandwich for Marco, but it's kind of one of those situations that had me thinking, Speaking of sandwiches, the Deli just keeps on rocking, Marco. I'm so proud of this segment because it's such a fun segment in addition to that it's just been absolutely red hot all season long.
Yum.
Yeah, Kelly, we've been nailing them here on the show, but where the real magic has been happening is in the bonus show, Marco's Deli, that comes out on Thursday. We've had 7 winning weeks, 2 losing weeks, 1 break-even week, and that has resulted after last week's 5-0 sweep on the show to 32-17 for the season if you're tuning in to the bonus show. So very happy with that. And also want to thank everybody both here and on Marco's Deli with all the birthday wishes last week. I appreciate all you guys with that. So let's just keep the deli going. And sometimes, as I said, you might not like the sandwich and what it looks like, smells like, but it always ends up tasting good. And this week, we're going to take a look at UTEP. Plus 4.5 playing Missouri State. Now, let's just start with this line because something smells. I don't know if it's the stinky cheese I have on the sandwich, but you've got a 6-3 Missouri State team playing at home, only laying 4.5 points to UTEP, who is 2-7. Right there should set off some alarms for you. And when we look at this one, why is this a sandwich game? Well, Missouri State came into, and I'll admit it on the show, I was wrong with Liberty last week. Liberty was playing better at the time, only had 1 loss in the conference. Missouri State went in there, beat Liberty at Liberty last week to get them in contention with this conference, Conference USA, and they've got a huge game next week because they play the first place team next week in Kennesaw State. That puts us in a classic sandwich. You had Liberty last week, who was supposed to be the class of this conference coming into the season, and the team that actually is the class of the conference next week. Then you throw in the fact that that win last week, what did that make Missouri State's record? It made it 6-3, the old magical. Now we're bowl eligible. Yeah, I just think you're a little bit too fat and sassy after last week. What you've got coming up next week, and you're playing a 2-7 team. You're going to look past this Texas El Paso team. 5 of Missouri State's 6 wins have been by 7 points or less. Missouri State 6-3, but they've been held to 24 or fewer points in 7 of their 9 games this year. That's not exactly what you want, a team that doesn't break 24 when they're laying points. I expect another nail biter here, and I'm going to go with UTEP to pull the upset as my sandwich game of the week. We're going to go with Texas El Paso 23-20.
You can catch Marco's extended Deli show. It's a standalone version here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel, or we add it into the mega show with NFL college, as well as Teddy's Stockwatch and Ralph's TNA. Let's get into those best bets because we're up against the clock here. VR, I'm going to let you go first per usual, but before you give everybody your best bet for college football week 12, please let everybody know what you got going on over at wagertalk.com.
Oh, yeah. I have, first off, I want to mention the UFC pay-per-view card is up because I have a 5% in there that I love this card. Already fired 5 bets. I've been working on that card for like 2 weeks. It's a get to the window and bet cash Saturday for me. College football won 10 of 12 weeks, coming off a losing week. You know what that means. We're going to progress towards the mean. If I find a 5%, we will fire it. Otherwise, those 4s will be a package up with all 4s. You know how they've done 6-1 the week before. They just continue to produce money. NFL, same thing. Package up, 4% best bets. I like the primetime games as well. Also, weekday, coming off a sweep yesterday in college football. Those weekday primetime games have been money in college football and NFL. I think I'm like 13-2 now. Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, last like 8 weeks. So red hot, jump on board. College basketball is here with the NBA. I got the college basketball power ratings are in full effect, getting tighter and tighter. So Alderate climbed the ladder, now up to number 3 in college basketball. We'll continue to climb. So jump on board. Let's close out the year strong and do some damage on Saturday and Sunday. And got a couple, like I said, weekday games as well. Now let's get into best bets. You're going to say, so you serious? You're coming square with us? Listen, I'm going to give you guys premiums because my subscribers are cool with it because they get enough volume. And I'm going to share what I've bet. And this is one of the bets I've already placed. And that's Ohio State. Why? Because it's a good spot to bet a team that finally underperformed against the betting market, which arguably played a terrible game. But if you look at the box score, here's what they did. They had 16 more first downs than Purdue. They held the ball for 21 more minutes than Purdue, 40 minutes to 19. They completely dominated. They ran on them for 170 yards. They threw on them for 303 yards. They held them to 94 yards passing. They just didn't put up a lot of points, and they turned the ball over. That's the bottom line. They were comfortably ahead 24-3 at halftime. That's what happened. Otherwise, they've been unblemished is what Ohio State's been, because not only have they been winning football games, but they've been outperforming the betting market as the number 1 team in the country. You know how hard that is to do? Go back and look at those years that Alabama was so dominant. And you're going to see a team that was 12-0, 6-6 ATS, 5-7 ATS, maybe 1 year, 7-5 ATS. But they did a really good job of making sure you're not going to make money betting these number 1 teams because they know that's who's going to get the money every single week. And yet they went out there and they covered every single game until last week. That just tells you how good this Ohio State team is. I've had them number 1 in my power ratings. I said there's no team better than them. They're at least more than a field goal better than the next best team. And the problem that UCLA is going to have is they're now facing a defense that's about 5x better than what they faced in Indiana. And against Indiana, they only were able to manage 7 points. Ohio State has absolutely no one on deck but Rutgers. This is going to be a celebration at home where they run up the score on a UCLA team because it's UCLA, and they can. And that's exactly what's going to happen. When I look at UCLA, they barely cracked my top 70 power rating wise. They've had a tough schedule, top 20 strength of schedule, but that put them at the 75th most efficient offense, 50 plus most efficient defense, and you're going up against top 3 in both. Yeah, Ohio State rolls on Saturday. 30's not enough, 32's not enough, 33's not enough. Like, the bottom line is once you get up over those minus 20s, the variance is so high. The 1 point line movement, 1.5, 2 point line movement doesn't scare me at all. Lay the points with Penn State. They blow out UCLA by 40 plus.
All right.
One more thing. I just got to say it on this show. What is Georgia Tech? Please tell me, what is Georgia Tech doing still in the rankings at number 16? Right now, I'll tell you, Marco's Arkansas. Marco's 2-7 Arkansas. Florida at 3-6, and Florida State at 4-5 would all be favored over Georgia Tech on a neutral field, or should be. Again, the books are going to do what they do to balance risk. But what I'm telling you is, if Georgia Tech was favored over any of those teams, that dog would get double-fisted money at the window from every sharp. That rest assured, because they're as phony as you get. Had to throw, sorry. Just share a little Georgia Tech information.
Oh, incredible. Marco D'Angelo, we had an awesome birthday special for you last week. What do you got going on this week? And who's your best bet? Because I had to change my best bet because we were head-to-head.
Well, again, the birthday bash last week worked out well. It was very popular. We had a ton of people on board, and we delivered with another winning week, highlighted by that big 5% on Nebraska. Small dog got the money against UCLA winning that game outright. And we're coming back with a big deal. Now, this deal, the first offer is available to anybody at Wager Talk. You can pick up, you know how popular the Weekend Warrior's been, where you can pick up Saturday and Sunday college and pro football for $49, and then you get Monday any football action as a free bonus. We're offering 10 days for $99. Get on board, get everything for 10 days for $99. That's a great offer. But if you were on for my birthday bash, you got a taste of everything. You got my college, my NFL, you got the NBA, you got hockey, you got college basketball. Now, I'm very spot plays in the other sports early in the season, but it's paid dividends. We're winning in the NBA. We're off to a 3-0 start in college basketball, been very selective, and we're on a 21-9 run the last 13 days, which has netted us a profit of over $3,000 for the clients. If you want to go through the Super Bowl, there's 13 weeks. You can get everything, every play I have, every sport, and it throws in any of those extras. Remember the Breeders' Cup, that Forever Young horse made a nice score that day as well. You get everything for 13 weeks through the Super Bowl, $749. Guys, that comes out to just $60 per week. We charge $99 per week regular rate. So jump on board any of those options. And we do have another 5% play coming this weekend. Those 5% plays, 36-16 now since February of 2024. For this week's best bet, Deli, and I'm sure I threw you a curveball, because one of the things I always say is, give me the better defense, getting points. I'm going to sign up there. And there's no question. We're looking at the USC-Iowa game, and when you're going to talk about the better defense, it is Iowa. So a lot of people are going to say, Marco, you're going against yourself. Well, you know, we have a lot of, as I like to refer to, Marco-isms, and there's one here that I got to bring up. Last week, Iowa got their backers paid. All right. They lost to Oregon 18-16, but cashed a ticket as they closed plus 4.5. And that's usually the way you're going to cash an Iowa ticket. It's going to be butt ugly, low-scoring game, and they're either going to win that low-scoring game or lose that low-scoring game. But if they're getting points, they get you the money. That makes Iowa this week the poster child for lose the same game twice. You had Oregon come to your building, and you took them to the limit. We know that these teams that come in from the Pac-12, it's a big deal when they come to your building for the first time, and they did everything but win that game. They had to lead late, and just like Penn State had to lead late to Indiana, they lost it in the waning moments of the game. How do you pick yourself back up from that? I don't see them doing it. Then you got to fly to the West Coast and play Southern Cal. We know what Southern Cal is about. It's all offense, no defense. It's, Lincoln Riley. It's, Oklahoma 2.0 is what it is. But I'm playing the situation. I don't see Iowa being as physical, being as ready as they were last week. And if they come out slow and they fall behind by 2 quick scores in this game, which USC can do that with that offense at any time, it's going to be tough for this Iowa team with that offense to grind their way back. I see USC getting out early and just keeping the pedal to the metal. I'm going to go ahead and take USC. Lay the points with this one. We're getting a soft number, I feel, with USC because of Iowa's near miss. We're going to go ahead and take USC minus the 6.5.
All right. Well, I think Marco talked me out of taking the points with the Hawkeyes. So I pivoted last week. We had a nice over touchdown underdog win for us outright in UConn. And I didn't put Northwestern in as my barking dog for a reason. I'm not sure they can win this game. And I started looking and I said, wow, the home team's covered 5 straight in the series. And, well, technically the game is in Chicago. It's at Wrigley Field. So kind of thought, all right, even though it says too many points, I'm not sure I'm going to get to the window with the Wildcats on the money line, especially because Michigan has won 8 straight meetings in this Big Ten matchup. Wolverines are also coming off a bye week. So I thought, hey, you know what? They're going to be well rested here. They've got Maryland on deck. This really isn't a spot that they're going to be overlooking the Wildcats, but it's still the Northwestern Wildcats. We all saw them on Friday night. Well, it was kind of a controversy, if you will, that 38-17 road loss at USC. Maybe had an opportunity to cover that game, was a little off, but I think we have been expecting for a while now for Bryce Underwood to have that breakout game. And I think we're going to be waiting another week. This Wildcats defense is very good at limiting explosive plays on offense. I think this is going to be a low scoring affair, which bodes well for a double-digit underdog against a team that is just 3-6 against the spread on the season. You're paying a premium here for the jersey that says Michigan. I like Northwestern plus 12.5. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us this week here on the college football edition of Bet On It.
Smash that like button. Smash that like button. And because we try to share as much information as possible, the reason you got Ohio State is the best bet is because of Marco's best bet. There's a hint for you. I couldn't use it.
VR also likes the Trojans. More reasons not to take the square dog in Iowa. So I appreciate both of you. Let's get that recap graphic up, because we know how much our audience loves it. And of course, if you guys are looking for that NFL edition of Bet On It, you can catch it right here. And if you're looking for the mega show with all the goodies, we got you guys covered. Good luck. Until next week, let's bet on it.
It is week 12 of college football. I am Ralph Michaels. This is the Wager Talk TNA report. That, of course, means trends and angles. We're going to look at two different situations late in the college football season, how teams do often upset win, and how conferences have done at home. Is there a conference that's had a strong home edge late in the year? And then, guys, you are not going to want to miss 5 super systems. I'm going to finish this video off with a system that is 31-7, 82%, and a system that is 21-2, 91%. I'll get to those in just a minute. Well, how do teams do often upset win late in the season? Let's take a look at our chart. You'll see on the top, these are games 9, 10, 11, 12, the last quarter, last third of the college football season. On the left-hand side, with the gray headings, teams often upset win as a home dog, both ATS and over-under. And on the right-hand side, you'll see teams off a win as an away dog, both ATS and over-under. Down the left-hand side, you'll see that is what they are in the next game. So the top left mid corner means teams that are off a win as a home dog, and now they're a home favorite. You'll see they're 8-10, 44%. So let's break them down. Is there a difference if a team pulled an upset at home or on the road? Not really. Take a look at the very bottom line. Teams off a win as a home dog since 2021, 47% the next game. Teams off a win as an away dog, 46%. But what does strike me is take a look at the favorites. If you're off an upset win and you're a home favorite, you've gone 44% and 40.5%. If you're an away favorite, 43.8% and 30%. So again, a pretty clean takeaway, guys. Late season teams off an upset win. If they're a dog, it's pretty much a split situation, a break even. But when they're favorites, they are a complete fade the following week. The over-under numbers, take a look. The only thing that jumps out to me is if you're off a win as a dog and now you're an away favorite, you'll see that both off a home dog win and off an away dog win are blue, meaning they tend to go over the total. Chart number 2, taking a look at conference games, taking a look at conferences, games 9, 10, 11, 12, what they've done at home. I went back since 2021 and since the start of last year. The left-hand side are over-under records. The right-hand side are the ATS records. So Are there any that stand out that are consistent? Well, take a look. In AAC games, home teams, 53% since 2021, 62% since the start of last year. And SEC home teams, 53% over under since 2021, 55.3% to the over since the start of last year. And MAC games, take a look at both of those poor over-under records on the left-hand side. Does it make sense? Absolutely. They're playing MACtion games during the week, weird scheduling situations, nasty weather. MAC games since 2021, the last 4 games of the regular season, 46.2% over-under. And since the start of last year, 37.5% over-under. Let's take a look to the right-hand side, the ATS records. Well, go to the very bottom, guys. CUSA, 55% since 2021, 60% at home since 2024. Also, Big 12, home teams, 58% since 2021, 57% since 2024. And which are the worst conferences as far as home teams are late in the season? The ACC, 45% the last 4 years, 43.5% the last several years. And Sun Belt Conference teams, only 40.2% at home since 2021. And since the start of last year, Sun Belt home teams, 44.1% against the spread. Before I get to those 5 super systems, we ask you a favor. Please hit that like button. If you learn one thing during these videos, it helps us to continue to do all this free content that every capper at Wager Talk does. I've enjoyed these videos throughout the year. They've taught me quite a bit, and I'd like to thank you because many of your comments and your suggestions are the reasons I bring these charts up each and every week. Hit that like button. Make sure you're following Wager Talk on all the social media networks. And I want to thank you if you've been with me for a great college football season. College football run, 18-7, 72%, number 1 the last 5 weeks. Going back to last year, my college football record, 45-22, 67%. College football best bets, those placed 4% and 5%, 8-1, 88%. And I've won 3 straight college football 5%, and have gone 12-2, 86%, my last 14 college football top-rated 5% plays. And don't forget about NFL teasers, 29-9, 76%, and teasers rated 4% and higher, 20-5, 80% against the spread. The Weekend Warrior, $49 this week, but an even better special. You get a 7-day package and 3 free days. That's like a bonus 3 days, $69 special. You're getting 10 consecutive days of service for $99. Check it out, wt.buzz/RM. Well, let's get to these 5 super systems. Teams off a straight up an ATS loss. You are now a conference away dog. You have a lower win percentage. And the only thing you have going for you is you have at least 5 days more of rest than your opponent. So again, off a loss, you're a conference away dog, lower win percentage, but you do have at least 5 days or more of rest. Those teams have gone 27-10, 73% since 2022. It applies to Arkansas, South Carolina, and Virginia Tech. System 2. You're an away dog up to +13. You're off a loss as the favorite, but you did rush for at least 200 yards. Well, the ATS record since 2015, 45-17, 73%. It applies to one team this year, and that is Arkansas. Remember, Arkansas also was system number 1 and system number 2. System number 3. You're off a win as an away dog, and you were an underdog of 17 or more, and now you're a home dog. Well, Sam Houston pulled the big upset last week. They were a 21.5-point underdog to Oregon State. Well, so they're off a win as an away dog. They were getting 17 or more, and now they're a home dog. This system applies to Sam Houston, and it says to fade Sam Houston as teams in this role, 8 wins, 20 losses, and 1 push. That is 29% against the spread since 2011. Well, the top 2 systems to finish off this video. You're off a bye. You're a home dog of 20 or more. You're off an away game. You have a losing record, and your opponent is off a home game. Not many teams are home dogs of 20 or more, off a bye, which means into this season this far. Team it applies to this week is Oklahoma State. Since 1989, teams in this role, 7 ATS wins, 31 ATS losses. That is an 18% system or an 82% fading Oklahoma State. And finally, if you're one of those people saying, how the heck can Louisville be ranked playing a Clemson team that has a losing record and the line is this short? Well, let me quantify it for you. Since 2009, ranked home teams that are a dog or a favorite to -5 from game number 5 and on. So you're not going to count those 1-0 team records that really may not be a ranked opponent. You're ranked from game 5 on. You're at home as a dog or a favorite to -5, and your opponent has a losing record like Clemson does. Well, since 2009, this system has 2 wins and 21 losses. There's a reason those ranked teams are small favorites or dogs, because they don't cover. 2 and 21 system says to fade Louisville. It's a 2 and 21 system on Louisville or a 21 and 2 system to fade Louisville. Either way you say it, the exact same. So system 1, play on Arkansas, South Carolina, Virginia Tech. System 2, play on Arkansas. System 3, fade Sam Houston. System 4, fade Oklahoma State. System 5, fade Louisville. I will have a college football 5%, going for a 4th straight winner. Trying to increase my college football 5% record to 13 and 2. Number 1 in college football the last 5 weeks. Thank you so much if you've been part of that run. And if not, we have plenty of college football left to make this a very successful football season for you in 2025. Follow me on Twitter or X at CalSportsLV. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great weekend of football.